Muted. Sorry, we're both muted. Hello everybody. Welcome to the Post TV. Alan, mate, welcome to the show. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. Thanks for having me on. Always looking to speak everything Spurs and whatever the topic is of discussion. There's plenty to go around.
There's a
Um,
lot to talk about.
just have a bitch and a moan about Spurs. Let's be honest. That's why.
Definitely. No, definitely. I mean, the intro was so long. About three other managers have just pulled out the race of being Spurs manager in that time. So, yeah, no, just a big up Richo, mate. In the big up Richo, big up Mark Cousins. Big up Juicy over on Twitch. By the way, if you haven't, please follow the Twitch account as well as the YouTube account. Big up Colin on Talk and Ball. Who else we got? Big up Jack. Big up Patmore. Big up Mate. And big up Tyson McGill. Big up everyone. Yeah. So let's just get into it because the Spurs managerial merry-go-round seems to happen constantly. The Australian of Ange Postecoglou is now the favourite. Let's talk about him for now. What are your thoughts on him potentially being the new Spurs manager next season?
So I didn't know much about him before. Obviously, his name was mentioned, so I've looked into him a bit. He does play decent football. My problem is that he's never been in a very competitive league, like one of the big leagues, like with a big job. And we've seen recently with managers like Potter, who people thought was going to be a great success, like a manager, foul in the big jump too soon. So it worried me with him. But like I said, he's done well at Celtic, but in the Scottish League, no disrespect, with just mainly Celtic and Rangers, you're going to be there or thereabouts every season. So I'm not, and the thing is, I'm not really buying that this is their go-to, because they wanted a young, youthful manager with attacking intent, stuff like that to do a rebuild. Is Ange the guy that really? Is he really the guy to do that? I don't know. For what they've asked for, is that what they're when they're describing what they want? Does it fit the mold of what Ange is? I don't think it does. Wow, it's for the money, isn't it? Congratulations! It's going to be a payday.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that shortly, actually, because it probably ties into actually one of our star strikers, by the way. We'll talk about that definitely very shortly. So the thing is with the Postecoglou one, again, I was very similar to you in the sense of didn't know not much about him. Started doing a little bit of research, starting to work out what he is and what he can do as manager for us. Listen, I look and I watch and go, do you know what? I wouldn't be too fussed if he was our manager. A lot of the stuff does make sense with Scott Munn coming in. So you've got two Australian lads now that will be in there, and you could think, and maybe that's putting two and two together and getting five, and it's just because they're both Australian. But listen, if we've got Scott Munn, who's very good in that sort of Asian market, Australian market, that side of things, and a manager that can also pick up players like that, I'm not sitting here trying to make out that we're going to go and sign world-class players, because I don't think we're at that level anymore. And I think fans need to very much be realistic now who we're signing. Obviously, I was on Sunday, was on the Spurs review with Saga, and we had a long debate about who we're going to get in and stuff player-wise. I thought, firstly, we need to talk about manager.
Yeah.
And I sit back and I think, could it be that big of a problem? Could we go and snap up the Matomas? I think that's the great example. The Matomas from sort of Asia, and now those sort of players, those hidden gems. And I wouldn't be too against it. But for me, it's the only way you get in the next manager now is bigger than just sort of the manager. It's the plan. What are we going to do? What is our philosophy going to be at Tottenham with our next manager? Because I think it's so important now. Because I don't think the likes of Daniel Levy has anywhere to go now. And people sort of go, yeah, but it will happen. The same will happen again. But the difference is now we're not going to have Harry Kane for very long. We might have him for another season. Yeah. So we have to look. Let's put it frankly, Harry Kane nearly scored half our league goals this season. That says a lot. Where do you find that? So that was my thought. What are your thoughts on that, mate?
So in regards to that, I mean, if you're just going for talent, like in different locations, like our Asian like community and all that, who aren't built for the Premier League. Yes, you get your Mitomas and stuff like that, or even if you look in Europe, for every decent European player you can get like a Brian Hill doesn't quite make it in the Premier League. Like you can get these players that go good for you and go against you. It's a massive risk if we just take risks with young talent outside. You need to do, for me, for a good project, you need to have homegrown as well as Premier League know-how, as well as foreign talent. You know, you put all that together, and I think you've got different areas where you can have success and failure. You won't get everything right, but I just think going down this route, I think we're just putting ourselves up for success off the not success off the bat. I think it's going to be more failure than success because it's too risky. But in regards to a philosophy and a project for Spurs, I mean, this club doesn't have a philosophy anymore. These owners have ruined that.
We haven't had one for years, mate.
Let's be honest. Like we had the Poch thing, which went well and all that, but then when it came to the rebuild, and he notified them of the rebuild, they weren't interested.
Yeah.
Then we had win now managers, but they never gave them the stuff to win now.
We didn't have players that will win now at all, were we? Let's be honest.
And they never backed them to win now. When you had a manager that was going to win, Mourinho, you take him away from a cup final. So we, as our owners and the people in charge, have no philosophy. All their philosophy is about having the best, like in regards to money coming in, best funds and all that. And obviously, it's a bit of a slap in the face that because we don't get Champions League football, there's that stuff coming out today that the war chest for the summer isn't going to be as big as we thought because we don't have European football. But all those things going on at the stadium, week in, week out, month in, month out, and all that. And again, we're cash strapped. It's an absolute joke. But it's one of the things where I think this is the moment. I think if you need a rebuild and stuff like that, I think you need somebody who's done a rebuild in one of the bigger leagues to have the best foundations going forward. Yeah, exactly.
No, I agree, mate. And I just sort of touch on what you said about the sort of Beyonce stuff. And I just sat. I had a moment and I was talking to a few of the guys in a few WhatsApp groups about it and stuff, and just sit back and go, I don't recognise Tottenham anymore. I'm assuming you believe in the same sort of thing here. Like, win, lose or draw, when we were at YR Lane, like, we just knew, regardless of how we were, we could have been crap, good crap, whatever, but we kind of just, we love the club. Like, I feel like we're just this sort of corporate identity now where we're now, and I put Tottenham now, we're a wheel that now the football club is just a spoke on the wheel.
Yeah.
And everything else is as important. If we look like, they'd happily now, they make so much money that the football club doesn't make much difference anymore. Win, lose or draw, it's irrelevant. Whereas before, yes, we may not have had the lavish stadium, maybe we wouldn't have even had the opportunity to get the likes of a Conte or the likes of a Mourinho, these elite managers. But at least you love the football club. And like, I feel so like underwhelmed with everything now because, and listen, and people went, and ironically, people went, well, if we were winning stuff, blah, blah, you wouldn't have that. But of course, but when we're sitting there basically having one of our worst seasons for nearly 2 decades, it was horrendous. Like people go, yeah, but you finished 8th. And I said, we only finished 8th because of Harry Kane, realistically. We've been a mid to bottom half team all season. We haven't been great. And if it wasn't for a good start to the season, ironically, we would be nowhere near. But I think we've just come to this sort of a thing. We're not that big of a club. Minus Harry Kane, we're bang average, and that's polite. But we're talking about managers again. So I've put up the list. So I'll share it on here because there's nothing fun than sharing stuff on here, and let's go down the list of next Tottenham managers. If people want to watch, is it on here? We go. So Postecoglou, as I said, is favourite.
Yeah.
We now have mighty Brendan Rodgers that everyone is completely against, and I am too. But a point that was made to me about Brendan Rodgers, one, let's be frank and honest, is Brendan Rodgers our level right now?
No, I don't think he is. I mean, I think that's just the way, because it's going down, like people go, oh, you can't do better than Brendan Rodgers because of the situation he had at Leicester, like obviously the decline. But no, there's players there that have got ability that you can get much more out of. They were misused, in my opinion, by Conte because he was way too defensive.
Yeah.
And people like Kulusevski was stifled. Son was stifled as well. Like, you have to blame them as well for their poor performances. But they were nullified to a certain extent. When you saw at the end of last season, when the reins were let go of and you could attack and all that, you saw how they thrived as a three. So having Spurs go backwards and be so defensive didn't make sense. But in regards to Brendan Rodgers, our level, no, I think you can, like I said, you got the players there that could easily get top four. But for me, it's not just about top four. It's about progressing and pushing up and winning trophies and pushing on, trying to challenge for a title like we did on the Poch. So no, I think Brendan Rodgers is our level. I said it like when the new manager situation came up, he wasn't my choice because he wasn't available. But as soon as he became available, I was like, get Nagelsmann in, pay him whatever you want.
Agreed.
Big up me because he's worked with youth. He's done a rebuild. He's done well at Leipzig with a less than adequate team. And then obviously he went on to do what he did and with Munich. And I think it was not his fault he got sacked. But he's got to show that he can do it both with a budget, with youngsters, and also look with bigger stars. He can manage them. So for me, I think he's the type of person you need at this club and to push forward. But this, like I said, about this board and all that, we don't have the players. We don't get investment on the pitch like we should do. We get everything else going on at our stadium. Ticket prices go up, memberships go up. But we don't get the amount on the pitch to reinvest into the squad. But these people give themselves pay rises. That's the state of the club at the moment. That's why we will only ever regress. But yeah, this is the time where you go, okay, I'm finally going to get a director of football in. I'm going to get a top quality manager in like a Nagelsmann. Leave them to do it. Take a step back. You take care of the business. Let the manager take care of the team. If you bring in a manager that knows what he's doing and can manage a team and do what he wants to do, this first team can for me challenge like higher up the table than what we have been this season. No doubt. But unfortunately, we're always like the reins are always like close to his hands because he's one of them people, and let's be honest.
No, I completely agree with the sentiment and everything you said, but there is one thing I wanted to touch on about spending and stuff like that. Yeah. I have a kind of a slightly different take. I actually agree with a majority of what you've actually said, but I sit back and go, we do spend money. We look at windows. I'm not saying we don't want a team that spends like Man City and Man United and all that. Like, I get all that. We do spend money. I think we're the fourth highest spender last season, but what we do, we spend money so badly.
Yeah,
we spend money terribly. I think at the beginning of last season, what were we crying out for? We were crying for a top defender, and we spent 60 million quid on Richarlison. And you went, even with just a sort of slight understanding, would have gone, maybe we should have just spent a bit of money on a centre half. And before anyone says I'm not talking about things like the Bastonis and the Vardials, these sort of elite defenders, because I think we're not that level. But a great example, I would have loved a James Tarkowski at Tottenham. I think he would have just fit right in our defence. We needed a proper defender that just defends. We haven't got that. We haven't got that one that just goes, do you know what, guys? We're going to sit back here and just, if we have to, for the next 5 minutes, just lump it up. We're not going to play out the back. Forget what the manager says. We're going to take charge here, and we're not going to. Because I always revert back always to the Newcastle game. And I went, no. If you thought about our sort of proper defenders at this club, that wouldn't happen. Like someone would have just grabbed him and gone, do you know what, guys? Look, forget about tactics and what we've been told about. We're just going to get the ball and we're going to lump it up for the next 10 minutes and just calm this shit down a bit. But I watched that and I saw not one person in that game against Newcastle go, guys, this is a nightmare. I just saw people looking around going, what do I do? And we haven't got that. And when I say defenders, I mean all of them. Like, I think Dye is terrible. I think Longley's terrible. Sanchez is terrible. I think Romero gets a lot of praise when I think he's really poor. I think he's an okay defender, but he gets a lot of credit for where I don't see where he gets it from.
Yeah.
But I sit and go, we haven't got a leader. Like, I can't think of one actual leader on the pitch, mate. And I don't even think Harry Kane's a leader. I think Harry Kane leads by example, but he's not a leader. We haven't got that one player in. Normally a sort of deep midfielder that's just in the middle of it. Just goes, do you know what, guys? The Steven Gerrard of your team that just goes, do you know what, guys? We're going to wake up a bit here.
Yeah.
But yeah. So and I just sit back and I just think, where do we go from it? And when you talk about, just to sort of go back on what you were saying about Nagelsmann, I think you're bang on. If you could have picked a manager that is perfect for what we need right now, Nagelsmann's that. And I was just talking to Sean from Spurs Talk Show earlier and something. He made a great point, is that there is a potential that Nagelsmann could happen. And the reason why it hasn't happened right now is because his garden leave doesn't stop. It ends in the summer. So we can basically, he will then become a free agent in the summer, which if that's the case, I have no problems. It makes sense. Why would you want to go and pay 20 million quid for a manager that's available for free in about a month's time? I wouldn't have any issues with that.
Yeah,
but I would have an issues. Oh, big up Jacob, by the way. Look, thank you so much, all the guys that have just jumped in. By the way, big shout out to all you guys that have just come over from the American raid. Big up to you guys, love it. Massive shout out to you all, and big up to all you guys in the chat. Massive shout out. But yeah, no. So what I was sort of just touching on though, like if Nagelsmann's the one, we have to go all out for him. We need to get a director of football that benefits him, someone that fits his philosophy. Doesn't have to be someone that he wants, but just someone that fits his ethos and his philosophy. And then we go, and it follows the chain. And this is what I've always said about it. None of this Daniel Levy sticking his nose in crap, because that's not how proper football clubs work. Yeah. Scott Munn's in charge. The director of football reports to him, and then the manager reports to the director of football, and the players report to the manager. If all things are done correctly, then that's how it should be. And that's beautiful. That's what we want that's exactly what we want as a club. Yeah. Properly done. Daniel Levy sets the budget. Whatever the budget is, doesn't matter. Let's just keep it simple. 100 million quid is our budget. I don't think it'll be there. It'll be somewhere around that though. If we have to sell to buy, we sell to buy. And this is where I always come to, and I wanted to touch on it, and it brings me brilliantly into this thing that Jack mentioned earlier about Benzema to Saudi Arabia could be happening, because the latter could happen, that Kane to Madrid is very much being talked about. Yeah. And here's the question that is dividing the fan base right now. Kane in or Kane out? Where do you sit on this? And when I say that, I'm being hyperbolic in the sort of point of what I'm trying to make here is, if £100 million is on the table right now for Harry Kane with a man that doesn't want to sign a new contract at the club, do you keep him for 1 year or do you sell him for 100 mil in the pretense? And this is the caveat, because we don't know, is if the new director of football is given that £100 million to go, that is going to be on top of your budget. So you double, let's just keep it simple. We get 100 million, doubles it to 200 million. That's your budget for the summer to go and completely revamp this football team. What are your thoughts?
So this is my thoughts on the whole Harry Kane situation. So Harry Kane can either be sold now for 100 million or go for free a year later. I know he came through our academy and he was basically free to us, but if he doesn't want to sign, you cash on him straight away. Mm-hmm. But we know that basically we're going to be like that. Okay, well then that 100 million should go to spending on team. And we know that not all of it will do. But like I said, the right people are in the right position, and you do get that 100 million as well as 100 million. 200 million, let's just do quick maths. 50 million pound in four positions, goalkeeper, two centre defenders, and another midfielder, right? Obviously, people will instantly say Richarlison will be the striker, all that. Obviously, I think we deserve a better striker up front than Richarlison, but there's areas that haven't been addressed for years that need to be addressed. This is a situation we find ourselves in. It's not going to be a quick fix, but if it's to reinvest back into the team, the Harry Kane should go. And it's not me saying Harry Kane should go because obviously, I want him out of the club. No
way.
But he is a phenomenal striker. What he's done this season, the goals he scored in this Spurs team, to be close within 6 goals of Haaland, who has been absolutely, unreal this season. people would be waxing lyrical about Kane if it weren't for Haaland. That's how good a job he's done in this absolute poor team. So for his own right, in regards to like people taking him seriously, because Spurs fans worship and adore him, but rival fans always say, but he's not won anything. He's not at this level, this, that, and the other. For him to do that, he's got to go and win a trophy so that people will start talking about him now. If it's Madrid, I don't think it's going to be Madrid. I don't think he'll go Madrid.
You don't?
I think, although he wants to, I think he wants that English record as well, the goal scoring. I think he wants to break Shearer's. I think if it's going to be anywhere, it's going to be Manchester United. It won't be Chelsea because we won't do business with Chelsea. Otherwise, that means that he will stay a season and go for free to Poch, which obviously will be a massive kick in the teeth. It won't be to anyone else apart from Man United there after the fact. So for me, I think he'd rather be at Man United and stay in the country than go and go over to Spain and win a Liga. Because then people will go, but you didn't do the Premier League. You know what I mean. I think it'll be Man United. If we sell him for 100 million, it needs to be reinvested properly into the team. And we've got so many areas that need looking into that it's going to be, even with that 100 mil added onto that, if it's 200 million invested in the team, it's still going to take about 2 seasons to get back to where we want to be. But it's a massive starting block for Spurs.
Agreed.
Probably.
No, absolute bang on. I think you've hit the nail exactly on it. I think 2 years is generous. I think it could be up to 3, maybe even 4 years for us to get back to the level that we expect to be at in the Champions League and in that sort of. And when we talk about winning stuff, I think we are so far. I think we're a decade away from winning anything at the moment.
Yeah,
and I think we're at nowhere. And when I was watching people listening to people going 3 or 4 signings, and we're back in the Champions League. I don't know where you get that. I think we are so far off it. And you know what it is we were having this massive debate about it, and I was thinking, well, for me at the moment, I think we need to start again. And when the term rebuild gets used again, I think we need to build. We need to build the house. We need to knock whatever's remaining of the house and go, do you know what? Start again. And this is my thoughts on the Harry Kane situation. I think I was actually going to go into. I thought we were going to talk about managers, but it fit quite nicely into the Saga, into what we were saying. That my theory is on this: if you can get £100 million for Harry Kane, that's the one that keeps coming up in the figure. I would only keep Harry Kane if it meant that we could win the league next season.
Yeah.
Because Harry Kane is the magic that can win you a league, really, if we ever score good enough. My theory on it is that we're so far away from that. If we took the money now, I think we wouldn't regret it. And I use it as it's slightly different, but it kind of fell into what Liverpool did. Look at and I'm not saying that we're much different in the sense of under Klopp, when they're under Klopp and stuff. What did Klopp do? He sold his best player, Coutinho, for 150 million quid to Barcelona.
Yeah.
And then straight away went, boom, centre-half, goalkeeper. That's what I need. And then the rest is history when it comes to those guys, because look what it did for him. It elevated them massively.
Yeah.
Is it because we're so scared of us as a fan base seeing one or two things? Are we just scared of life post Harry Kane? Or are we actually scared that if Harry Kane went to anyone else, naming Man United, Real Madrid, doesn't really matter, and he goes there and wins something immediately? I think is it the terror and the terrorizing fear inside that everyone goes, and it kind of fell in the same breath with Pochettino, why everyone's in a bit of a meltdown with Poch going to Chelsea. I think the theory is, for me, is not necessarily Poch going to Chelsea, it's Poch winning at Chelsea. I think fans don't want to see him lifting a trophy at Chelsea. And I have the same feeling with Harry Kane at the moment. I think fans are more scared to see him successful elsewhere than because he's a Spurs boy.
Yeah, no. So for me, like, we could have had a trophy under Poch if they had just put that extra bit into him, but they always like, no, you got a good 11, good 12, it's fine. We'll keep it there. So I think he could have won a trophy with us if they had just given that little bit more. And people gave him a lot, but let's be honest, when he first came into Spurs, quite a lot of those players were there or on the cheap. Bedeli only 5 million. Eric Dyer was no more than 10. Like, you had the young, like, Kyle Walker was already there, Danny Rose was already there. So you had the the start, Toby Alderweireld was no more than 20 or something like that.
Yep.
Tongan was around the same, so it weren't big money. And obviously he came in, they bought into him and stuff like that. So if you would have gone, he's got us here with, a good starting foundation and we haven't really backed him, let's give him 2-3 top quality players as well as the team he's got to fight for position. I think he would have got over the line. So
agreed.
Yeah, him going on to win at Chelsea, Spurs fans would be absolutely hating it.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, he's going to go on to win at Chelsea, or he might go on to win at Chelsea because, and not me, I didn't want him to come back and all that, but there are a lot of Spurs fans that wanted him to come back. But because he's gone to Chelsea, loads of people go, it's Poch. Poch is the bad egg. But where was the phone call from our owners to him and going, come back?
Bang on. Bang on, mate.
They are culpable beyond everybody else to not getting back. Remember Harry Kane. If Harry Kane goes, oh, I'm not going to sign a contract, and again, the board go, we're not going to cash him because you're Harry Kane, we're going to keep you one more season. It's basically going to go, he's going to go and join Poch, and it'll be another player and the manager go across there because he'll be like, well, I want to go and be with Poch. This is what I'm saying. These owners continually do stuff to destroy this club, and they keep back for it. But if Harry Kane goes on and wins anywhere else, we've only got ourselves to blame because we've been in a situation, and this is obviously blaming with Poch as well and stuff like that, because we've been in finals that probably Kane shouldn't have played, like the Champions League final, because he was really... I think Mora should have started, not saying because of the hat-trick, but what I'm saying is we got to the final without Kane because of his injury. I think this is where you throw Kane on with 10, 15 minutes to go if it's not going your way. I think we restricted ourselves.
I think for me, for that one, I would, when everyone says, oh, you should have been Lucas starting over Kane. For me, I think they both should have actually started. I think you'd have actually got a bit more because you'd have had a bit of pace in Lucas Moura, and you could tell, but those are the if buts and maybes with the Champions League final. But yeah, I think everyone's got their own opinions with who should have started, who shouldn't have. But you're right. I think we've got to remember we've got to finals and we've just not got over the line. Yeah. And I always and this is why I always am very balanced with it with like the owners, because everyone would go, well, it's the owners' fault. It wasn't the owners' fault we didn't win a match, a cup final. It was because we just weren't good enough on the day. Like we managed, the team was good enough to get to the final, but we couldn't go over the line. I think so. I always sit there and it's one of the things I don't bash the owners with about not winning cup finals, Champions League finals, all that lot. It wasn't his fault. His fault is for the absolute demise of the football club. I mean, that is the massive difference. But I'd love to get your thoughts on it. So, like for me, when I talk about build again, like for me, like this is my thoughts on it at the moment, and I would love to hear yours on it. But for me, I want us to be looking at very similar to what Brighton do, but on a different level. We look at Brighton, and I see fans that completely write off players in our fan base, and I think. And I make a point about it with fans going, now, we need to think about where we are. I saw there was the lad from Galatasaray, Swedish lad, Victor Nelson, I believe his name is. Centre half, plays at Galatasaray. And I see fans immediately going, well, I don't want him. We're better than that. Why are we getting him? And I go, are we though? Are we better than that? Like what defender would people prefer? Would you prefer a player that's playing in the Champions League? We're not in Europe next season. So I think you have to remember these players, there's going to be bigger clubs that want to go for him. Surely we should be looking at these players now, that these young, hungry players that we should be looking at what Brighton do. They bring in lads at the age of 18, 19, 20 and turn them into 60, 70, 80 million pound players. What are your thoughts?
So, like the Nelson, I don't know much about him, like a defender, but it just always brings me back to with Spurs, the Danny Rose saying, I have to Google these people to find out who they are, because and that's the thing with Spurs. I mean, he could turn out to be a great player. That's absolutely fine. You know, we bought Alderweireld in quite cheaply and all that. Turned out to be a phenomenal defender, but it's one of these things where it's a massive gamble, considering that is the problem area where we have so many problems. For one, I mean, not saying, but let's just say Laporte, obviously people saying he could become the Spurs. I think you need somebody to steady that back line who's going to be like Premier League proven, has one staff, stuff like that, just to be a rock next to, because if Romero's going to stay, I mean, I agree. I think Romero's got all the abilities to be one of the best defenders in the world. I think he does. But
really?
and I'll tell you for why. Like his leadership skills, his tackle, what he has is literally he has this space in his head where he goes missing in games, like and all that, and it's literally like he's like snaps it back in and goes, rather than defend, I have to hit somebody or I have to take somebody out. He's got so many holes and these flaws in his game that I think a strong manager needs to tune and get the best out of him. I think if you bring in somebody who can't handle him, I think he just continues to do what he does and goes backwards. But that's getting away from the...
Couldn't you argue that we had that manager and he couldn't get a tune out of him?
So in regards to the tune out of him, I think towards the end of last season, Romero, the thing is, I put Romero, like, although I rate him, I put him to blame for this season because it's like he wasn't really given all before the World Cup. World Cup comes, he doesn't start the World Cup, then he goes on to win the World Cup and play really well in it. And he comes back and goes back into like his shell, like something we don't see. I don't think it's easy to switch off like playing like in regards to being poor, then being great, then being poor. I'm positive that he can be great like throughout a season. I just think you need the manager, like, because if you believe the stories behind the scenes, Romero didn't get on with Conte. Like there was all that like thing, like Conte rubbed everyone up the wrong way. So for me, we won't know the truth. It's all hearsay, but it could be why some people didn't perform under him. But yeah, for me, Romero, you have a player there with ability. I think you just need a manager that will come in and get the best out of him. If we can't, then I'm happy for him to go. I want players that are going to continually perform for Spurs. But then if he goes, Eric Dyer's not the answer. Darren Sanchez.
Oh, of course. No, I think...
who we're looking to sign is not the answer. That's why I say we need somebody to come into that defence as a, to calm everyone down as a focal point that will get that backline starting to look more promising. Then Nelson on top, he might be a great youngster. He might be able to come in, thing like that, and help. But I think you need to start with a rocking midfield, rocking defence. I don't think he's the answer straight off the bat. Listen,
and loads of people in the chat, by the way. Big up Mia, big up Phil Coys, by the way. You know my feelings on this. They'd love stirring it with Romero because they know my thoughts. Because I think he's an absolute liability at Tottenham. Honestly, I think he's a liability. I think some of the mistakes he's made this season. Listen, I try and judge stuff because I think I see a lot of stuff that people go, oh, I love his passion. I love all the energy that he does, which, yeah, it's great, but I don't see a good defender at the moment. At the moment, by the way, and that's the caveat here, because I see a defender that he's a raging bull. He's a lunatic. And people go, yeah, but I love that he goes in and smashes someone. Yeah, great, but doesn't make great defenders don't do that. Great defenders don't go in and just absolutely thump someone in the 20th minute. And I go, it's all well and good. It's all great when he gets a yellow card in the first 20 minutes. And then everyone goes mad when he gets a second one and gets sent off. And I said, the great example I always have about with Romero is a great one. I always say it. I said, yeah, okay, Man City. Everyone went, oh, but he stuck it on Haaland and stuff. I went, great, yeah, we won the game of football. Amazing. I mean, Man City went on and won. Man City are close to winning a treble, by the way. But, I mean, that's a parameter that I want to put on it. But what happened with Romero getting sent off in that game? We played Leicester. They got relegated this season and got absolutely humiliated against them. Yeah. Humiliated. And I said, for this amazing defender that, and I'm not saying you, because I think, Alan, you've actually been quite sensible in what you say about it, but I see a lot of people that think because he's shows the, in air quotes, passion and thumps a player, I sit back and go, I want my defender to defend. I want my defender to be calm on it. And I said, and for me, I'm always one of these. I don't like I think the narrative of he needs better defenders around him. Yeah. And I said, but great players don't need that. Harry Kane's the example. Harry Kane has had absolutely nothing around him. The bloke scored 30 league goals all season. This season, 30 league goals. He's 6 goals away from Haaland, who's playing with probably one of the best starting teams and best teams we've ever seen in a Premier League. You could argue there's a few others, but you could put them in the same conversation. Kane scored 6 goals off him scoring that. If you flipped it around, would Haaland have scored 30 goals with this team? Probably not. We will never know that. But for me, when we talk about the likes of Romero, I think as fans we have to be very balanced when we talk about it, because if Eric Dyer was making the fouls that he made this season, people would have lost their heads. And then, by the way, I'm not comparing the two because I think Dyer is horrendous. By the way, same. I don't think we've got one centre half in this team that I go, they've been amazing this season. I think they've all been terrible. You can't concede 63 goals in the league, and then some people go, oh yeah, but he's been good. He's been okay. No, I think defense, including the goalkeeper, by the way, Lloris has not been anywhere near it this season. I think he's been one of our worst. He's on par with Dyer on terrible seasons, but I put him in that. And this is where people think, oh, I want to get rid of Romero. No, I don't actually. But I think if we see the same of what we see next season, we need a defenders that we can trust.
Yeah.
And you're right. We need a steady ship at the moment and a steady defense. We need the likes of a Lewis Dunk from Brighton. Do you know what the player I actually said? I was thinking about earlier, and what people will be in the comments going, really, really. But I said, do you know who we need? We need a Johnny Evans at centre half. Someone of that. No, but listen, it sounds mental. By the way, it sounds mental. But I tell you what, he's a calm defender that will defend, and he'll do the absolute basics. We're missing the basics at the moment. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that's who we should go and get, but we need a defender that can do the basics at the moment.
Do you know how I describe Romero? I liken Romero, and it's a different position, but just hear me out. I liken Romero to Diego Costa of Chelsea. Diego Costa from Chelsea would rile people up, be a nuisance, shithousing, everything like that. But when it came to it, he would have them rattled and be at the top of his game, scoring goals and winning trophies. With Romero, he does the same thing. He riles people up and stuff like that. But literally, he loses his focus and gets too involved in I'm just going to cause problems. I'm going to foul you. I want to get you right. Like, he gets so involved in that he loses his game completely.
Agreed.
If he can continue the way he is, but fine tune it so we get the Romero towards the end of last season,
okay, yeah, that's right,
and all that at the top of his game, you've got a formidable player at the heart of the defense, and you bring in quality beside him. Somebody to solidify that defense, and a youngster as well to just get a different dimension going. The way you've got obviously the rough player, the one that's going to keep everything calm and composed, and the youngster that's going to be able to progress the ball or something like that. The difference of thing like that. All the time you've got Romero that can't stay focused in the game, that just wants to go out and the alpha male. This is my pitch. Do all that thing like that, and then he loses his call for the rest of the game. I want to see the Romero that's going to do that, but also be like, you ain't getting past me. But until the right people come into this club and calm the situation down and sort him out, I don't think you see that.
Because the thing is, you're bang on, by the way, because there's a defender. I think there is a defender there. For me, I haven't seen it yet, but I just wanted to comment on this. Perchy, mental effect is real. When good players like Romero get surrounded by average defenders at Spurs, it affects the mentality. But this is why I don't subscribe to this, because if that's the case, Harry Kane wouldn't be scoring 30 goals in the league. Do you know what I mean? For me, I think you're right, and there's a lot to unpack in it, because he said this is why the chairman does need to fix it, by the way. And we do need better defenders around us. But for me, I think it's just for me, it gives an excuse for poor performances. And just something as well, Alan, you touched on about him doing all the stuff that he does, which, listen, I've got nothing against it. The problem what he does is the one player that everyone goes, oh yeah, but what about Sergio Ramos? He done all that. But Sergio Ramos was also a very, very good defender. Yes, he would clatter people, but he would do it when he needed to. Not when Haaland sat on the halfway line and you just go and lump into him. If Haaland had to get a yellow card somewhere, he would do it because he had to do it for the benefit of the team, or he would clatter into someone when the referee's not looking. Don't do it under the referee. If you're going to do all that, don't do it underneath the referee's nose, because you're just going to get booked. And this is the thing is because the Sergio Ramos and the Pepe conversation gets thrown at me all the time. Well, they didn't you think they were elite defenders? Well, they were, but they were clever with what they did. Romero doesn't do it cleverly. If you're going to do it clever, if you're going to do it smart. Don't do it when the ref can see you. Is my thoughts on it. But that's my take on Romero, because that's what everyone in the chat was basically begging me to do, by the way, because you all want me to rant about Romero. But yeah, I mean, imagine if he had a Ledley next to him, exactly, because Ledley King wouldn't allow him to do the stuff he does there. No, you're bang on there. And yeah, and Simon, man, there's a bring Laporte. Yeah, why would a Laporte come to Tottenham? He's at Man City. I mean, there'll be, and this is the. I'd love a Laporte, by the way, but I'd love a Laporte. I think he's a great defender. But I always I try and be realistic when I talk about transfers.
Yeah.
We're not a pool anymore. We used to be in the Champions League. We're not anymore. And at the moment, I think we need to be a bit more sensible when we think about players now. I would love to get your take on it, because I look and go, I don't think we've got any pool at the moment. We've got no manager. We've got no director of football. We've got a team that is shot to bits on confidence, ability, and cohesiveness. What are your thoughts? Because when I always see these sort of links with the likes of Laporte and sort of what I would say like big players, do you see us in that level anymore?
I don't see us at that level, because I think there's a lot of history, tradition. Obviously, it's what goes with the club nowadays. It's like obviously the stadium, the training facilities, everything like that included. But as a club, like, am I thinking players are going, oh, I can go to Tottenham and win trophies? No, that's the difference. So they're not looking at Spurs and go, oh, I can win trophies, but there is still Paul there. In regards to Laporte, I think Man City are getting rid of him. So I think that's why he's becoming available. That's why he cried. Literally, there was a thing like he cried over the season, like, and everyone was like, "Oh, he's crying because he knows he's got to go Spurs now." You know, that type of joke. I
get all that. But I think there's other clubs above us in the list. Is my thoughts.
Oh no, they probably will, and it'll have to fight for these type of players. But I still think we can get these type of players over the line. I really do. It's just whether we get them over the line by going in and paying off the bat what they're actually asking, because this, like, people all know, we always like to underpay and take time and push people away or not get people over the line because we want to do that. I think that's why people get frustrated with Spurs, like other owners, other teams, like, because the way we do business. I think if we were to have a player that we want to get over the line, and the team we went to and they went, we want 30 million, we go, there's 30 million. I think we'd get a lot more targets than what we actually do over the line. But because they go, we want 30 million. Well, how about we give you 20? No, we want 30. How about we give you 22? No, we want 30. And it literally, the amount, like, that Jed Spence wanted to pretty much have done deal. Daniel Levy took the reins, and it took him so long to get it. That Porro signing took a whole month.
Porro. I mean, there's so many, isn't there? But does it make you feel whenever we have transfers like that, by the way? And this is just, I feel like when we have transfers and we hear about them for weeks, I just go, by the time they're announced, I'm just like, I don't even care anymore. Like you know, with some clubs go, boom, player out of nowhere, and you go, wow, we can get excited here.
We were trying to get Luis Diaz for so long, and then Liverpool, they go, we'll get Luis Diaz. We got Kulusevski out of it. Obviously, he had a bit of a poor season, but most of the players did because of like the type of everything that was going on behind the scenes and on the pitch. Yeah. So that's not a given Kulusevski a buy. I love him as a player, but he has to man up. He has to take care of his own performances. But we got Kulusevski out of it, and everyone was loving it. But we should have had him. There was a time when we wanted, I can't remember which manager it was at the time, but somebody wanted Bruno Fernandes. We got Gedson.
Oh, that was Jose, weren't it? Jose, that was.
Ruben Diaz. We got Joe Rodon. And it's a continuing thing. Jack Grealish, we could have had him for 30 million.
The Jack Grealish one was horrendous, by the way.
And it's a continual thing for us. So when we act like that, we push so many people away, players and other teams, that we shoot ourselves in the foot. If they were to go, no, I don't. You always try and get, like, if somebody goes, he's 30 million, well, okay, well, we'll give you 28. You know that. But when you go like 10 million difference, and they're like, no, that's too much. You know, in all terms, a million or two isn't going to be the deal breaker. It's when you go, okay, we'll give you 10 or 15 million more. Yeah. You know, that's where you push teams away. And I think you can bring players in of good quality to Spurs still. You just got to not be as frugal with the money. You've got to be able to go, here's the money you're asking for, or a million or two short, you know, test the waters. But yeah, that's, I think, Spurs' main problem is the way we do business.
I know. I mean, I absolutely, you're absolutely bang on. I think the way we do business is terrible. But I'm now. Do you know what? The problem what we've got as a football club, I say we, but the collective we, is that big players now are going to be looking at us and then going, nah, Newcastle. Laporte going to Newcastle makes more sense because they can get another. They can improve their defense. Because I think what Eddie Howe's done there has done amazing, but Laporte going in alongside Sven Botman in a back four, let's be honest, they've got Champions League football now. And the thing is Newcastle have such a pool now compared to us. Yeah. They've got money, they've got Champions League football.
Yeah.
They've got a project there that is massively looking good.
Do you want to know the difference for Spurs? Like, let's have a look at Spurs. The amount of things we get wrong this and the other because of owners, because of managers and everything like that. But look at Newcastle. In one season, they went from, obviously, they survived relegation, but they went like nobody thought they were, but they've gone straight to Champions League because would people say Eddie Howe's a world-class manager? No, but it's a manager that's allowed to get the players in he wants, to play the way he wants, and he's been left to it. With all these with this billionaire owner, they could have easily have gone, well, no, we want things done our way, this and the other. They've left him to it, and he's delivered. So next season, they're probably going to give him funds and go, you buy who you want. Yeah. And he's going to deliver again. Focus on that because that's what we need to do as a club. Leave everyone else out of it. Just let the manager, director of football, come up with a plan. Who do you want? Why do you want them? Do you want to play this way? Give him everything like that. And I think you'll see Spurs kick on a lot quicker than what people are giving us credit for. But when you've got somebody dipping their fingers in going, oh, no, not him. We'll give you him instead, stuff like that. I think you just open yourself up to problem after problem. So Newcastle have got where they are because they've allowed a manager who is a good manager and he's proven that he's better than what people gave him credit for, but he's allowed to do what he wants, put his philosophy in. He gets the players that he believes will work well for him, and it's worked. And we just don't do enough of that. So we've only got ourselves to blame because we allow people to continue doing it.
No, I can't argue with what you're saying. You're absolutely spot on in what I'm trying. That's exactly what I was trying to get with this. But I just feel so underwhelmed with Tottenham at the moment. And not just on a footballing thing, just about a feeling now. And I sort of mentioned it earlier on, like the feeling at Tottenham now, there's nothing that I go, I'm excited for next season. Like, think about Newcastle. Just use this as a great example. Newcastle fans can't wait for next season. They're already sitting there going, who are we going to buy? We're excited here. We've got Champions League football. Yep. The bright lights, the Champions League music at St. James's Park.
Yeah.
I sit back and go, I can't wait for I want the break to be as long as possible, this break in between it, because I sit and go, we're going to go back and we're going to end up signing a couple of players and you sit there and go, there's no actual philosophy. And I want to be proven wrong there. Like, I genuinely want to be proven wrong that actually we do have a philosophy. We're going to identify young players. I don't even mind us looking at the likes of Southampton, Leeds, Leicester and going, do you know what? Let's get in a Lavia on a good price. We can get rid of midfielders. We have to offload the likes of Højbjerg, whoever. Like, it doesn't actually bother me. I don't care. But we bring in a Lavia. We look and go, do you know what? We want James Ward-Prowse for 3 years or something like that. At least we go, do you know what? But the idea is we're going to play this style of football and we're going to bring in players for this style of football.
Yeah.
None of this, we're going to square pegs round holes scenario, which we did with a lot of our players for the last. And it kind of moves me on to because it was a debate that was on United Spurs of America. It's a big up, Jacob, by the way, if you're still in there, mate. Absolute massive shout out to you, mate. But we're having a debate with Kulusevski. And everyone's going, get him in, bring him in. And I kind of went, whoa, slow down a minute. 35 million quid is what has been the release clause that we can get him in for. Has Kulusevski earned the right to just be at that level of going, we'll just have him in the team now? Because I think we will sign him. So ironically, it's an irrelevant conversation, but we need it as a YouTuber and it's what we do, but we talk about this stuff. But I sit back and go, does Kulusevski's season warrant him to be automatically in the we just get him in?
Well, So I'm going to look at it like this. I mean, if we were to say no, we don't want Kulusevski, who's behind him to come in? You then need at least another top quality winger plus because Danjuma, as much as Spurs fans wanted him to have a chance and show what he can do, he never got that. This is the mismanagement of transfers.
Oh, madness. That's
it was just something to get over the line for fans to get their teeth into. But when you don't go and play him, it's quite clear that he was an afterthought. And it's no disrespect to him, but it is what it is. But if you don't go with Kulusevski, you've then probably got to spend more buying a winger that's just as good or better than him. And then that means you take away from another important area, which is what we need. Kulusevski this season, yes, underperformed massively. He's got to take control of his own performances. But like I said, I'm being very critical of Son this season because we know how good he can be and the levels he can reach. But
agreed.
To a point, you had the way we were set up nullifying their ability because we sat way too deep. Sometimes even sometimes we were allowing teams to come to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and control the game, and we were only hitting on the counter-attack, and we found it harder and harder to get out because we were that defensive. Kulusevski, with a manager that's going to come in and go, okay, if it's Ange, because he does play possession, attacking football, I think he thrives. Nagelsmann, I think he thrives. I think a defense-minded manager who's very pragmatic in the way they do things. I think they are the type of managers that will nullify him. And I think now, like in regards to where it was, I think someone will only go backwards again if it's that type of manager. I think if you have the right manager in, playing the right type of football with people in the correct places, thank you very much. I think you see attacking players, being able to do that. I mean, let's just look at it this way. This season, Bentancur before his injury was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. But the work he was having to put in to carry the ball from so far deep up and all that, and Højbjerg done it at times too, but Bentancur was literally running that midfield. If it weren't for him, as well as Kane, Spurs would be relegated, hands down.
I think we'd be in that. I think you're right. I think Bentancur's a horrible one for me at the moment because I think you're right. I think he's the only one in midfield at the moment that you can go, wow. I think Bissouma's the one we build around, by the way. I think Bissouma's the one we have to build around. We have to go, what's the best to suit him? Because we saw him at Brighton as a real destroyer in midfield. So we build around him. But Bentancur is a horrible one for me at the moment because I go, that's injury. There's players that don't come back from injuries like this, by the way. There's the injury that he sustained. There are players that don't actually come back from it. And it's obviously talks he might be back November, December. I mean, that could only just be back without him actually training. So it would still need another 4 to 6 weeks of just training to get back to match fitness. So we may not see him until the new year. And it worries me because I sit and think we must have to have a contingency plan for the likes of Bentancur because we're going to have to go and think of a midfield. And if we're going to say it's going to be a midfield 3 next season, is you can go, I look at it and go, it has to be Bissouma, another one, and then either a number 6 or a number 10, depending on how we want to play. If we're going to play defensive, you play DM, and that could be the likes of someone like a Lavia or on that sort of DM plays in that role, or we get a number 10 like a James Maddison, which again I don't think we're going to get. I'm just using names of players that have just been relegated because I don't think he will come. I think he'll go to Newcastle, but someone of that ilk is what I'm trying to get at. And but we have to go. Do you know what? Let's start from the beginning and go. Do you know what? We're going to keep these players. I for one have been talking of us in the sense of, do you know what? We have a core certain basis that we have at this team that we can actually create something very similar to what happened under Pochettino in the likes of really 2 aggressively attacking wing backs, in Udogie, who looks really good, by the way, from what I've seen him at Udinese. He does really good. He does look really good. You've got Porro on the other side. Players that don't necessarily aren't amazing defensively, but are very good on the attack. Yeah, you go and keep Romero in, and then you get someone next to him that is a proper warrior next to him, a proper defender next to him. Yeah, and then you get a number 6 in that can just drop into a back 3 when we're attacking. Very similar to the sort of Wanyama role under Pochettino, where he just sat into that role. You then have the likes of Bentancur when he's back with Bissouma. And then you've got wingers that just tuck in, and you've got an attacking 5 going forward. If it's Kane, Son, Kulusevski, it could still be that, and it would work with those two. And you've got a basis of a 4-3-3 there that looks really nice. You go, wow, I'm excited for this. But we have to, that's just my thoughts. And I said, do you know what? We've got, and then that way you can go and buy 3, 4, or maybe even 5 that just improves us somewhere. Another midfielder, if you need to whilst Bentancur's out, you're getting a better goalkeeper, a better centre half.
Yeah.
And if you have to, if you want to go and get a bit more dynamism out wide, you drop a Kulusevski and bring in a much more pacey winger in that sort of capacity, which for me, I don't mind. But for me, I've always stood by the process of, I just want a plan. I want us to go, do you know, we're going down this road and we're going to stick with it. And when I say stick with it, it doesn't mean when it goes a bit tough, we get rid of the manager. We have to, as a fan base, we have to collectively stand by whoever it is. It may not be our first choice as managers. It might be Brendan Rodgers. And we might all go, but for me, I think the next manager, whoever it is, has to be getting the support from the fan base and going, do you know what? We have to stick by this person, because whatever they're going to do, there has to be a project. Yeah. Because the only one person I don't want in charge, and I will stand by it, I don't want Ryan Mason in charge next season.
Yeah,
and do you know what? And I say this, people go, oh, but you don't like Mason. No, it's not. Actually, do you know what? For his benefit, he can't be Spurs manager next season. Completely for his benefit, because if he's in charge next season, it will destroy any credibility for him to being a football manager. And because I think, do you know what? I actually think he can become a very good manager, but he has to be a very good manager by starting in League One, League Two, and working his managerial career up, not coming straight in at Tottenham manager and failing after 6 months, and then basically getting the boot and everyone goes, nah, I'm all right. Because look at what's happened at Frank Lampard. I don't think any of big team is now going to touch him as a manager, because he's absolutely crumbled when he's come to the Premier League. And that's why I said more for his benefit, he should go and start his managerial career elsewhere and build himself. But so we're going to touch back. Have you got to go? I just wanted to double check because I knew you had a.
Yeah. No. My show's a little bit later, but I've got a further 5 or 10 minutes, and that's absolutely fine.
That's cool. Because I knew you had a show, but I didn't know what time it was. I didn't want to make you be late for your own show, of course. Just to sort of touch back on the manager's sort of front. Obviously, there's other managers on the sort of horizon on the talk about it, with the likes of Graham Potter, Ruud van Nistelrooy is now available. Who was the other one? I had it up. Let's have a look. Who was it? Luis Enrique, which I think might be off the table very soon, because I think he's going to Napoli. And there was Spalletti, but I believe he's also going to be, from what I've reported, it has been reported that he's going to take a year out.
Yeah.
And then we start going a little further down to the likes of Lopetegui, who's at Wolves.
Yeah.
Would you have a Lopetegui at Wolves? Do you think he would be a good manager at Spurs?
No, I can't. I can't go through this entire long managerial thing just to point another Wolves manager like Nuno. No, I can't do it.
It has Nuno.
Even
though I think Lopetegui's a better manager than Nuno, but
Mia's just think Mia's already subscribed to me. I love you, Mia.
Big up, Mia.
The chat for so long. Big ups. Just to quickly answer, United Spurs America. Alan, did you sort your tier thing out? I have. Big show tomorrow night, 8:00. Ranking Spurs this season, Spurs players, tier ranking show. So make sure you pay attention to that.
Yeah.
Come join us. Going to be ranking them and see what.
And if you haven't, go and subscribe to this man. If you haven't, great channel, absolutely great channel, mate.
Spurs fans, Premier League show later on tonight at 10:00. Make sure you join us for that. Anyway, self-plugging. In regards to this, when Nuno was Spurs manager, became Spurs manager, I didn't like it straight off the bat, and I was like, okay, I'll see what I can. I'll just lay off. I'll report on, because that's when I start my channel. I'll report on Spurs, and how they're doing in regards to. Oh, for God's sake, Mia! Thank you very much. Thanks, Mia.
Zidane.
I won't.
Mate, if you think we're getting Zidane, I hope you're just on the wind up. But yeah, no, we're not getting Zidane in.
But it was although I didn't thingy, I sat back and gave him a chance. But very quickly I saw what he won and I jumped on it. Conte, I was like, yeah, get him. get him over the line. Mourinho as well, but it didn't work out. And when it weren't working, I was like, no, it's been a misstep. We need to something like that. So I'm not always going to be one of these people that'll be like, I'm not going to give a chance. I don't want Brendan Rodgers. If it's a Brendan Rodgers, I'll be like, okay, let's see what you can do. Stuff like that. So I'm willing, not Mason, no, I agree, not Ryan Mason at all. But I've said all along, we're going for all these names. It's probably going to be either Brendan Rodgers or Ryan Mason. If it is a Brendan Rodgers, we'll see what happens. I won't judge. I won't get straight on his back. But there comes a time where you have to wait and see. Luis Enrique, I think, is obviously the more named manager, which I think Spurs fans want because we've been so used to Mourinho and Conte. But look at it this way: this is like whoever the manager is going to be. The reason why Spurs fans and myself don't hold out much hope because since Pochettino got fired in 2019, since 2019 to 2023, now into 2023 or 22-23 season, no Spurs manager has seen out a full season at this club.
It's terrifying. That stat, when I read that, I when you read a stat like that, you go, nah, it can't be real. And then you start doing the clockwork back and go, oh, God, it is actually real. When you start reeling it back. And Spurs' question is, what if Kane wants Mason to be manager and he stays? There's reports Kane is really good friends with Mason, so watch your space. Yes, Kane and Ryan Mason are good mates, by the way. That is true. They are very, very close. They obviously grew up in the academy together. But Kane doesn't want, Kane's a nice bloke, so he would obviously want his mate to do well. But I think he wouldn't want it. I think he would see in the same thoughts as me going, no, if you're doing the right thing for yourself, don't be Spurs manager. Go and start your career again. That's what I said. I said, I actually want Mason to say at the end of it, go, do you know what? I'm going to leave at the end of my thing. Thank you, Tottenham, for your help, because obviously we gave him the job after his horrendous injury, by the way. Yeah. And if I was him, I'd walk away and go, do you know what? I'm not walking because I don't want to be. Because there's a part of me in my head, I kind of go, I want him to walk away so he becomes Spurs manager in maybe 10 or 15 years or whatever, and go, he's actually earned his right to be manager. Getting it is the wrong thing. No, I totally don't. I don't think Kane wants that, and I think Kane will. I don't think the manager situation with Harry Kane actually matters. Yeah. I think it's so past that with Harry Kane. The only reason I think he stays is if he goes, do you know what? I'm going to honour my contract. Is the only reason he stays. I can't, and he doesn't want to hand in a transfer request. If I was him, I'd want to leave.
I think if he wants to see out his contract, I would rather sell him than let him see out his contract, because if he sees out his contract, he's going to Chelsea on the free with Poch. Like, that's what I think. I think so. If he's going to sign, I think you just need to go, okay, we'll take the money for you now and let him go wherever he's going to go. But although they're friends and all that, there's no way. I don't think Harry Kane's going to look at his career and go, it's got to the point now where I've got accomplished all of this with goals, this, that, and the other. What would I rather do? Stay with Mason and be friends, or win a trophy? For me, it's a trophy, hands down, with Kane. I think he'll be like, no, I want to win something, and he'll be gone. I don't think the friendship will make him play at Spurs at all.
No, I think you're spot on. I think, and just to touch on something we said earlier about Kane and Madrid, and you said no, he won't do it. I think he considers it if it's on the table. I get your point about the record, but I think it's a difference saying it now when there's no offer.
Yeah.
But if representatives of Real Madrid are on the phone to his agent in the morning and they go, Harry, we really want Harry. Karim's on his way out. He wants to leave because he's going to get a load of money. He's moving to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
We have a place for him to be our number 9. How much do we have to pay to get him out of his contract at Spurs? Yeah. And they say, listen, they would happily accept a move outside of England. Yeah. We could probably a deal could easily get done for 80 million quid, just for a number. I don't think Harry Kane turns that down. And I would question him if he does. If Real Madrid come knocking, I don't see why he doesn't.
I'll tell you the reason why, because, and this is obviously just my point of view, I think because although Real Madrid will come knocking, I still think, because look at Man United's number 9, Weghorst, I think Man United will come knocking regardless. So I think, although Real Madrid will be, like we've already offered him apparently to Real Madrid, it looks like Benzema's going, so they're going to come in and go, we want number 9. Man United are just going to be like that. Well, we want you, and I think staying in England he's paramount. He wants to stay here predominantly.
I think that's right as well. But my point, I think you're right. But I think maybe the talks of us trying to get him, if he is to go out abroad quickly, make more sense. If we're trying to go, do you know what? If we can get a deal with Real Madrid now, let's let him go because we don't want to send him to Man United. We don't want to see him lift the Premier League in a Man United shirt, for argument's sake. And you could be on saying, I think you are right, by the way. I do think he would want to stay there, but it would take a very, very bold man to go say no to Real Madrid. Real Madrid, this is a team that doesn't just win trophies. They consistently win doubles and quadruples and stuff. They win trophy after trophy. And yes, they haven't won anything this season, but you'd put money on him maybe winning at least La Liga next season. Heck, if he goes to Real Madrid, by the way, at least it means I've got an opportunity living out here in Spain to go and travel over and watch him play. At least I get to go and watch him play. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm not saying about it, but I do think you're right, though, in the sense I think he does want to stay in England. But if Real Madrid is the only offer that's on the table,
I think he'll take it. If it's the only offer, I think he'll take it. Yeah, if it's the only offer, I think he'll take it.
Yeah,
yeah.
No, I think that's fair. And I'm going to ask the last question. We're going to last question because I know you've got to get off and you've got a show to do yourself. Who's going to be the manager next season? Who do you want it to be with what's available? But who do you realistically think it will be?
I want it to be Nagelsmann. I think with everything that's happening now, I think it's going to be Ange Postecoglou. I think it'll be him.
That's fair. I'm going to stick on mine as always. I said it from the start when we sacked Conte. Since actually when Nagelsmann got sacked, it was actually a lie. Because I said I think I want it to be Nagelsmann, but I think it will still be Brendan Rodgers. And and the more and more I think about it, it feels like Brendan Rodgers will be that last ditch because we haven't been able to get anyone. And I think that's a great way to end. I just want to say a massive shout out to you guys in the chat, by the way. Yeah, exactly. Dan's right. Real Madrid is the pinnacle. Biggest shout out to all you guys, by the way, in the chat. Massive thank you so much. And also just a big shout out to Jacob for sending all your people over. Massive shout. Much love to you, mate. Got a lot of time for you. I think we're going to end it on that, mate. Thank you so much for coming on. We've got to do it again. It's pretty good. I've got to do a more show as well.
Yeah, you're welcome anytime. Any Spurs fans that always want to talk football are welcome on my channel.
Go over there and sub and jump over and watch him later. Watch over there, and I'll be tuning in definitely.
Excellent. Yeah. Premier League show tomorrow night. Predominantly Spurs, but I cover the Premier League. Premier League show tonight with Kendall, Rack, and CFCOG. And then tomorrow night, yes, Perchy and the ranker. Yeah, I'll be the ranker, Mia, no problems. Ranking Tottenham players on the season. It's going to be a debate and probably people having to go at each other, but it is what it is. But thank you very much for having me on. I'm more than happy to come back whenever you need. If you want, mate,
absolutely, it's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll definitely do a long one near it as well, mate. Massive thank, and everyone in the chat, take it easy and just enjoy it. No football for a while. Just take it easy. Anyway, see you on the other side. Ciao.